There is a misconception I think we have carried for a very long time about what it means to be good. Somewhere along the way, goodness became soft. We picture the light as beautiful and gentle. We picture angels with serene faces and folded hands, speaking quietly in places where nothing ugly has ever been allowed to touch them. We have created this image of goodness and something almost delicate, as though the very act of becoming fierce somehow moves you farther away from it. I don't believe that. I've spent a good part of my life writing about the battle between light and darkness. In my books, there are wizards and guardian warriors whose purpose is to uphold the light. They are ancient, powerful. They have lived for millennia, carrying the weight of worlds and promises and mistakes that began long before the people around them were born. They know darkness. They have fought it. Some of them have been touched by it. And eventually, they begin to realize that the darkness is growing beyond their ability to contain it. There comes a moment when they understand that something has to change soon, because there are some things that reach a point beyond which they cannot be recovered. I wrote that as fantasy, but lately I have found myself wondering how much of it is real. We are living in a world where we are connected to everything and increasingly disconnected from ourselves. We carry these little glowing portals in our hands that can bring the entire world into our living rooms, our bedrooms, our minds. Every fear, every outrage, every tragedy, every manufactured distraction, every person who has figured out how to capture our attention long enough to sell us something, convince us of something, or frighten us into something. And we wonder why we are tired. We wonder why our nervous systems are exhausted and our thoughts feel scattered and our ability to sit quietly with ourselves has become almost foreign. Then something gets in. Maybe that is how the devouring begins. Maybe darkness rarely arrives with horns and a dramatic soundtrack. Maybe it slips through the places where we are depleted. Maybe it finds the cracks created by exhaustion and distraction and grief we have never given ourselves time to feel. Maybe it feeds on everything that pulls us farther away from ourselves until one day we look around and realize something precious has been disappearing while we were busy watching the show. That thought has been sitting with me. So has the Ace of Swords, because a sword is a curious symbol for clarity. We like clarity when it feels gentle, when the truth comes softly and opens some beautiful door we were hoping to find. But sometimes clarity cuts. Sometimes you finally see something for exactly what it is. And once you have seen it, you cannot return to the comfort of pretending you didn't. That is what a sword does. It separates. It cuts through. It gives you a clean edge between what belongs and what has to go. And maybe that is where I think we have also misunderstood the relationship between light and darkness. Imagine heaven or paradise or whatever name you give that place where everything is love and beauty and peace. Imagine that it is entirely light, entirely soft, entirely open. What happens when something dark comes for it? What protects it? A world made only of softness would be extraordinarily vulnerable. The light requires the darkness because darkness teaches us where the edges are. It teaches us what must be protected. It gives us the contrast necessary to recognize the beauty of what we have. And sometimes, if we are honest, it calls forward parts of us that would otherwise remain sleeping. The same is true of us. I think about angels sometimes, about the way we have turned them into these perfectly mannered, beautiful beings who seem as though they would apologize if they accidentally stepped on your foot. Then I think about Michael, that old John Travolta movie, when he says, "I'm not that kind of angel." Because there are other kinds. There are warring angels. There are angels who carry swords. They are protectors who understand that their responsibility is not to remain pleasant while something threatens the people or the things that they have been entrusted to protect. They know when to open their hands. They know when to offer mercy. And they know when someone has crossed a line that requires a very different response. I built my guardian warriors from that place. They love fiercely. They protect ruthlessly. They are capable of tenderness so profound it could break your heart. And when the moment comes, they will put their foot on someone's neck without losing a second of sleep, if that is what it takes to keep the darkness from reaching someone they have sworn to protect. Maybe that sounds harsh. I think it sounds honest. Because rainbows and unicorns are lovely, but they are not going to save you from everything. Sometimes the moment requires softness. Sometimes it requires stillness. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is nurture what is growing. Sit beside someone in their pain and allow the waters to become calm enough for you to see what lies beneath them. And sometimes you need to be cold, methodical, calculated, even ruthless. Sometimes you need to stop explaining, stop hoping someone will become who you need them to be. Stop standing at the edge of a situation waiting for the universe to hand you a different answer. Sometimes the sword is there because it is time to use it. That is what I keep coming back to with today's reading. The Ace of Swords, surrounded by stillness, nurturing, ancient wisdom, and the slow unfolding of the lotus. The energy feels less like a command to charge blindly into battle and more like the moment before the warrior rises. You have been still long enough to understand what you are looking at. You have listened. You have tended what needed tending. You have allowed wisdom to rise from places that were once wounded. And now you know. And maybe that knowing is what you need today. There is no virtue in pretending that softness is the only evidence of a good heart. There is a softness that heals. There is a stillness that restores. There is a nurturing hand that can bring something wounded back to life. And there is also a sword. The whole of you was never meant to be one thing. The light does not survive because it is endlessly gentle. The light survives because somewhere, when the darkness comes for it, someone is willing to stand in the doorway and say, "Not on my watch."